My name is Dr. Wadell Brooks, Sr., your host, and this is Community Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, the Community Forum started in 1993, but since the virus has taken over, we decided we want to keep you in contact, with give you information that's educational and professional. So we decided we would start with the Zoom. And we're grateful to Jim Husel for giving this opportunity to talk with our guests by Zoom. This evening we have with us Mr. Vance, Commissioner, I should say, Vance Wyatt. Greeting, Vance.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Brooks.
Yeah, I'm very happy that you have taken time literally from your busy schedule to be with us here on the Zoom to talk a little bit about, your personal, professional background. And I want to talk to you as a professional young man, and that this community can look for greater and bigger things. Vance, I want you first of all to tell our listening audience a little bit about your personal professional background.
Sure. So my name is, again, Vance Wyatt. I'm a commissioner for Falls Park District. I serve as the board vice president and also as the board treasurer. Prior to that, I served on the Lake County board for a year and a half. And I served and took over for Miss Audrey Nixon when she first passed away, and served the remainder of her term. And then before that, I was on the park board again. I served as the board president for a year. I had just got reelected when I left and was appointed to the county board, and then served 6 years on the North Chicago Public Library Board, where I served 3 years as the treasurer.
Tell us a little bit about your educational background.
Sure. So I have a degree. I graduated from North Chicago High School, class of 08. And then I went off to college and got a Bachelor's of Science degree in management, a minor in public policy from National Louis University. And then I got my MBA in banking and financial institutions from Concordia University in River Forest. And now I'm not currently planning on going to a doctorate level like you, Dr. Brooks, but everyone keeps telling me I should. So.
Well, we want to definitely. We have a doctor's family, as you know. My wife, she has 4 doctor's degrees, and Cassandra has 2, and so. My oldest daughter is a graduate of Michigan State University, and my son is a graduate from University of Illinois in electrical engineering. So we are an educational family, and we are looking for greater things from you. But let's talk about some of those things. Now, you mentioned you were a trustee of the North Chicago Library, but there's something special about that too, right? Were you the youngest trustee in the state of Illinois?
So back in 2011, at the age of 20, I became the youngest library trustee in the United States history. So it was I beat out actually my former colleague Aaron Lawler, who was the county board chairman. He had served as a county trustee and was appointed back when he was 20, but I beat him out by a few months. Just like on the county board, I was a few months younger than he was when he first got appointed to the county board. So I have a very vast history of being the youngest. Currently, I'm the youngest on our library or park board. Even on the county board, I was the youngest member there as well.
He was he appointed you, and you were supported by 21 members of the county board. You served unanimously for the district, right?
Yes, I did.
And tell us about your financial background too. You weren't there just as a learner. You had some financial training too, right?
Yeah, so I'm actually, as I said, I have an MBA in finance from Concordia University, and then within going to school for finance, I was made it to become a financial analyst. I've been a financial analyst for over 3 years now at CVS Health, where I deal with about $1.9 billion worth of financial claims. So in the scope of the county, that's almost 3 or 4 times the size of the county's entire annual budget. And then also compared to, say, the city of North Chicago or the Park District, that's like an everyday process for me, the amount of transactions I deal with.
We're wondering, why can't this community
Hmm.
uh, keep young professionals in the city.
Hmm.
Once they become a professional, then they leave. Why? Why is that?
So, I bought my house, so where I'm actually interviewing right now is at home.
Okay.
And, one of the houses that I was looking at was over in the first ward. And one of the issues that I had with, it was a very beautiful home at marble countertops. It was actually much cheaper than what I paid for my house. It was actually bigger than my home. But the amenities and what services were available in that particular part of the community was why I chose not to move into that house or purchase that house. There is no park, no public park that was within walking distance. As someone that wants to eventually have children, I want to make sure that we have a park there for our kids. So one thing that I have done since I didn't purchase my home there, we made sure we got a park over there in the first ward.
Mhm.
That is going to be built this November. So I'm sure we'll get more into those details later on. But for me, I think that if we don't have the amenities in the community, you won't attract people. You have to have things for them to want to do after work and before work. And then also things for their children as they're growing their family. And of course, we have a very high property tax rate, which is something that I've been fighting against to make sure we don't keep raising our property taxes here in North Chicago. In 2017, when I first joined the county board, we were highest in the entire state of Illinois for property taxes. So those are some of the issues I see. Again, it goes back to what's available here. If you look at something like a community like Libertyville, where there's a very vibrant nightlife that is for young people, that's one thing to attract more of the younger individuals that are early in their 20s before they have kids. And then also when you have in your 30s, when you're looking at your buying your homes, you're looking at your property taxes, and of course, what amenities are available to the community.
North Chicago is located centrally between the city of Chicago and the city of Milwaukee.
Hmm.
And but I know North Chicago has about 70% rental population, you know,
Hmm.
and but otherwise, besides that, look at all the assets that
Right.
surround us. You want to
Hmm.
talk about some of the businesses that surround us.
Sure. We have so Lake County as a whole, if I remember correct, we have 10 Fortune 500 companies just
Well,
in Lake County. Then if you go into Northern Cook, which is where I work, we have more. We even have more Fortune 500 companies. So it goes up to about 20 if you just go into the northern half of Cook. So there we have the jobs here locally. You're gonna, of course, sometimes you're gonna travel. Sometimes it may mean that you go down to the city to work. But we need to have those necessary amenities to attract people here in town. And that's sometimes what I feel that we're missing. For example, with us at the Park District, we're looking at purchasing a daycare right now to actually give people in the community a low cost option for daycare. My generation, compared to other generations, have been saddled with more student loan debt. So some things that are traditionally you would go through purely through a private sector. We're looking at some of the local governments, like a park district, to take on or help out with that. Most of the other park districts in the area, and just specifically Lake County, has their own daycare that offers a lower cost option for childcare, either whether it be a latchkey program, which is something that we already have, or whether it be full-on daycare for a newborn all the way up to the age of 3. Those are some of the things that we're working on at the Park District, and I'm looking forward to bringing forward.
fantastic. Well, let's look at housing. I mentioned we have about 70% rental population. Why don't
Hmm.
we have more owner
Yeah.
housing?
So for me, so one thing I'm looking at doing is I do. So I know we'll be discussing this a little bit further down the line, but I am looking at running for treasurer. And one of the things I see as an opportunity for our community is to have financial literacy for people within our community. We need to make sure that people understand how to build their credit and also how to maintain it, and then be able to balance their checkbooks. Unfortunately, we have with them how much we raise property taxes. For example, my mortgage is going up $250 per month now because of property tax. Now, if I'm not able to budget for that, then now I'm at chance of losing falling behind on my mortgage, falling behind on my property taxes, which then results in more rentals because then there likely won't be a homeowner that purchased my home. It will likely be a renter. So the house that I purchased was a rehab. It was rented out for 2 or 3 years, and then until it was on the market and I purchased it. Unfortunately, a lot of our homes, as you said, 70% of our homes in North Chicago are already rentals, and that's something that you're seeing as cycle essentially of what's going on. You have homes are purchased and then are rented out either via a real estate investment trust or they're being rented out by people that don't live here in our community. And it's important that we make sure that we have individuals in our community that have the ability to purchase homes, stay in those homes, and have the necessary resources in the community to make them stay in the community. And that's something I'm really focused on.
I'm looking at schools also. At one time, North Chicago had approximately 10 public schools. I know my 3 went through there and they had a fabulous education. But now something is wrong. We have only about 5 attendance centers now. I know that ADV is thinking about, or they're committed to spend $40 million to replace Neil. But we can have the finance, but internally, if we don't have the academics for the youngsters, then we defeat the purpose.
Absolutely. I mean, well, this is the thing. We do have a lot of kids that go off to college. Some of them they'll go off to college, but they may not finish. And we need to make sure that they're better trained for that. Excuse me. So we want to make sure that they're college ready. We have a lot of kids that go off to college and they may go there because they're on a basketball or football scholarship. But that's not why you're there. You're not there to play football or to play basketball. You're there to get an education first. And we need to make sure we have kids that are coming through our programs, through the park district and at the school district, at the high school level, that we make sure those children understand that you are a student first and an athlete second. And we want to make sure that those kids have an opportunity to use their God-given gifts to be able to go off to college and get their degree for a low cost or possibly for free.
Well, let's take this opportunity to mention about college. We have the College of Lake County in the area, Grays Lake, and on board we have about 18 4-year colleges. I know my alma mater is there, Illinois State University is there, that they don't have to spend money to complete the final 2 years. So the opportunity is there.
Absolutely, and there's even more colleges now that are doing online. So my 2 schools that I went to college, they're both private schools, but they are located here in Illinois. And you can finish your whole degree all online. So my senior year, I was working full time. I finished my degree all online for my bachelor's degree. And then for my MBA, it was a hybrid program. So I would spend half of the semester down on campus and the other half was all online. And, with this COVID going on, you've seen a shift from a lot of colleges to doing mostly or almost all online. And I think that it's going to really change the opportunities for our children in our community to get a college degree without having to incur the traditional costs that you find within college. Now, of course, we want to make sure that those colleges, specifically the private ones like I went to, lower their costs because the kids are going online. That's something we're waiting to see and making sure that kids, coming from North Chicago, or not even just North Chicago, but kids that are coming from a lower socioeconomic class, essentially, tend to take on more student loan debt. Like, for example, myself, I owe more when I purchased my home, I owed more on my student loans than I did for my house. My mortgage is smaller than my student loan. And that's a reality of a lot of individuals in my age group, especially ones coming from North Chicago in the area. It's an unfortunate thing, but I was blessed to have a job where I can afford to have a house. Many in my age group, still at 30 plus, can't actually afford a home still, or at least their first home, which is another reason why if we get these amenities as they grow older and they start paying some of those student loans down, they'll be able to buy a home right here in town, because a lot of our homes, because of the years of lack of investment, homes are relatively cheaper than you would say in Libertyville. For example, my home in Gurnee would probably be $300,000 versus here in North Chicago it's about $124,000. So there's an opportunity, and we need to take advantage of that. And my focus is trying to give those amenities to our community and help bring the kids back to our town that have gone off to college, or the ones that have just got a nice, good, blue collar job. Have them come home and help build our community up.
Let me tell you about the college costs. When I initiated, when I graduated from high school, I received a 4-year scholarship, and the tuition was $40 per semester.
Wow, that's amazing.
So you $40 gonna buy a book now,
I think the cheapest book I've paid in college was, I think, $100. I think that was the cheapest book I ever had. I remember one year, my freshman year, I think it was my first semester, I ended up having to take a credit card out because it was $700 just for my textbook. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, what about the importance of family life?
Yeah, that's what, going back to what I said, that's what I said about the parks. It's important that we have parks that people can feel safe in, that they're up to date. We've seen, if we compare North Chicago to Waukegan, Waukegan is consistently redoing their parks. So this year we're actually going to be redoing 3 new parks. One is going to be in the First Ward. It's going to be the first time we've had a park there since the 1930s. And then we have Neville Park that's going to be redone as well, and along with Coles Park that will also be redone as well. So Coles Park is a cooperation between us and Lake County Housing Authority. Neville Park is something we're completely doing our own, and then this one on 10th Street is 100% our own park district doing it as well.
Okay, now we can't get through this discussion without talking about how crime is increasing in North Chicago. Why is there so many shootings still among the youngsters here in North Chicago?
I think part of it is the simple fact that there's not a lot for them to do, especially with the COVID situation. This year, we were going to have 6 festivals this year. We were going to have 2 carnivals, and all of that got canceled this year. Along with that, right now, specifically in the fall, normally you would have college football or high school football going on. You'd also have our Flames football program going on. So that's 100 kids just in our Flames football program that are not being able to take part like they normally would. We are doing a football camp, but it's not the same as the season, where they're there Monday through Friday and sometimes even on weekends practicing, and they're staying out of trouble. There's something for them to do. With social distancing, we're limited as a park district to how many kids we can allow into the park, into our buildings, also at the basketball courts, and also in our parks. So you're giving essentially children an opportunity to get more of a chance to get in trouble. Of course, I'm not happy with that. I would love to change the way, I wish I could just wish away or, get rid of COVID overnight, but it's not practical right now. And I definitely believe we need to do more after school programs. There's been countless studies. More programs that you have, more after school programs you have, there will be a reduction in crime. So the most recent one was a 40% reduction in your crime with youth if you have after school programs. So we have latchkey, but we have basketball, we have football, we have baseball now. We're doing tennis. We're doing a lot of different programs. The issue is now with COVID, it slowed the amount of kids that we're able to put in there, and it's also slowed our opportunity to scale up those programs. So like baseball, we had our first baseball team last year. It took us 3 years to get that program up to where we could have a team. And we're trying to get that interest in the different sports beyond just the basketball and the football, and track and say wrestling, which are kind of been our core programs, and trying to expand out, with the tennis. So I was a tennis player. I didn't get to play tennis really until I got to high school. If I started at a younger age, I could have played D1 and been able to, I wouldn't have student loans. I would have been able to, have those fundamentals at an earlier age and be able to move on to a higher level and then be able to get into college essentially for free.
Mr. Wyatt, we want to thank you very much for hearing about your high aspirations. In other words, what did the young ladies say when they think low, you think high?
Absolutely.
Right. Now
Yes,
another high goal you set is to be treasurer. Now, what piqued your interest to be treasurer of the city of North Chicago?
sure. So I've been in finance since I was really young. I was a part of in high school a program called Academy of Finance. So since I've been pretty much in high school, I've known I would be tied to or connected to finance in some shape or form. So looking around, of course, in North Chicago, we have a little bit of financial issues with our government agencies. Our city specifically, our pension cost since 2013 has doubled. Went from about $33 million worth of unfunded liability with our pensions to a $61 million unfunded liability. And that's something that needs to be taken care of. So as someone that's from North Chicago, that has a financial background, who worked in finance in much larger entities than the city, and going back to my time with my time working at CBS, I deal with $1.9 billion worth of financial claims, both medical and pharmacy claims annually, and our city budget is only $39 million. I'm sure there's plenty of ways that I can work with the comptroller, the city council, the mayor, in order to reduce the amount of money that we're spending, so we could take on some of our costs for our pensions and other unfunded liabilities that we have as a city. And of course, I want to go above and beyond what the statutory requirements of the treasurer's role is, and also do some financial literacy classes, specifically within the youth to start off with. We need to get our kids knowing about financial literacy so that they have an opportunity to buy homes. If we want to go after the 70% of homes that are rentals right now, we have to start with the younger individuals. That means from K through, or not K, well, you start at kindergarten level with certain programs about just having a piggy bank. It can be that simple. Just get them a piggy bank and just putting a few coins away when they get, their birthday money, or they get some money from the tooth fairy, put a little bit away. And then when they get off to being in college, they have the financial know-how to be able to not take out exorbitant loans, along with being able to make savings and start, when they get into their professional life, having a 401k and how to grow it. So that way, when they're getting older, they're not having to rely, purely on Social Security. And then also, I want to do wellness fitness for our adults. We have adults that want to buy their own homes. They're, say, 30 or 40 years old. Let's make sure that they can know how to budget, get their credit together, and then actually let's get you into that home. There's a lot of free programs. So when I was on the county board, we put $3.6 million into this, it's called the Home Grant. And and part of that home grant gives people the necessary down payment so they can buy a house. So if we get your financials together, and then we tie it to this home grant that's funded by the county board, now you have an opportunity to buy a house, and then you'll see an immediate impact in reducing that 70%. And that's the approach that I want to take. Those are just two different programs that I want to do as a treasurer. Of course, I want to promote our small businesses. So I have a conference that's coming up this week, a digital conference with Select Chicago, talking about micro lending for small businesses. With COVID, a lot of our small businesses have been suffering. We've had a cleaners that just recently closed here in North Chicago. How do we get some type of cash injection into these small businesses that are currently here, but also cash injections for individuals that want to start their first business? So one thing I want to do, which I will have to work with the city attorney for, is to see if there's a way that we could leverage some of our money that we have in reserves, say 0.5% or 1%, and put those into microloans. So that way our risk is not, we're not exposing a ton of the money of the city, but we're able to get returns back at a higher rate, but it helps the community, which is even more beneficial than any interest that we can incur or recoup as a city of North Chicago if we were to do a microloan. We would work with some non-for-profits like the Greater Waukegan Development Corporation, the Black Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Let's get these businesses going, these small businesses specifically, and let's grow our city, and let's have a community that looks, that's reflective of our community, but also has the necessary tools, financial at least, to be able to grow and scale their business. We have Amazon right outside of town. Amazon started in Jeff Bezos's garage, and their first offer was their local public library. We have a business center right here in North Chicago Public Library, which is named after my predecessor on the county board, Audrey Nixon. I want to make sure we have our next Amazon started right here in North Chicago.
You mentioned about former or the late Commissioner Audrey Nixon Boulevard. Hopefully will be completed next year.
So from my understanding, originally was going to be completed this year. Due to COVID-19, it's probably going to be completed next year. There is some piping work being done still, which could potentially get it done by November. But it's likely going to end up being next year. It all depends on how the weather is. And it was raining. We're under flood warning for the next 2 days. So it may not. We may have some work that may get pushed back because of that. So
another entity that would also assist you with the churches, and those. And recently we've had about 3 or 4 pastors to pass away. Reverend Woods of the Christian Valley Missionary Baptist Church, and Reverend Gass of the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church. Recently, Pastor Francis has been buried yet, but the Shallow Missionary Baptist Church are the ones I could name right away. And I understand there's a couple more that's very sick. But if we could get the churches to work with you, then we could make a lot more progress with the youth.
Absolutely. And like I said, we're a community, and we have to come together. And that includes the churches, the government entities, and the people that live in our community. And let's build our community up. I've always been willing to work with the various different churches in the community. For Falls Park, as an example, we work with Mount Sinai. We actually use some of their property for where our football field, where our football team practices is on. So we have always been a community focused. Our community has been focused on itself internally, at least, and trying to help one another. We just got to kind of essentially get take a new vision and take a little new direction, and try things in a different way, so we can actually grow even more than we have in the past, and then turn some of the issues that we have, or quote unquote negative, turn those around in our community.
We're sure, and we hopefully that the people listening to this program will get on board and would help you in any way possible with the professional ideas that you have, because we need more youth to get involved in community activities. I think you mentioned a few of those. They get involved in community activities. This would be a great help to the community.
Absolutely.
Okay, now you mentioned about your immediate goals, and that's to be treasurer of the city of North Chicago, and I'm sure that the people in North Chicago will be grateful to have you come in and make gains to help the city along, because we're 70% renters, and we want to get beyond that.
Absolutely.
Become, and the more homeowners that we have, the less our taxes will be. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we've been talking with Vance Wyatt, formerly County Board Commissioner, and also the Commissioner for Greenbelt Cultural Center. Falls Preserve.
Yeah.
That's a
Forest Preserve. Former Forest Preserve and current Falls Park District Commissioner, and now candidate for treasurer for North Chicago.
Okay. We want to thank you very much. You had a great family that we talk about the importance of family. I'm sure family played a great part, and still playing a great part in your life too. Right?
Yeah, take care of my mom. She's my mom has COPD, so she's very susceptible to the COVID-19 virus. And trying to make sure that she is safe. Make sure she eats well as well. Especially in these troubling times. You know, she was there for me when I was a kid, and I want to make sure I'm here for her and her golden age.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Community Forum. My name is Dr. Wadell Brooks Sr., your host.